Hello everybody, and today we're going to be analyzing between a game between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. And yesterday I just previously analyzed Hikaru versus Magnus Carlsen, and which Magnus Carlsen easily defeated Hikaru Nakamura with the simple knight sacrifice. And today I'm gonna show you what Fabiano Caruana did about that. We got e4 controlling the squares on f5 and d5. We got pawn to e6, which is the French defense, and then pawn to d4 controlling completely the center with the pawns. And we got pawn to d5, knight to c3 controlling more squares and developing another piece and to make it active more, and also pressuring the d5. And although this pawn on d5 is now pressuring the e4 pawn. And we got this, and then we got knight to f6, which literally just normally develops another piece, pressuring the pawn on e4, nothing too special. And we got, from that, we got e5, which literally attacks the knight on f6, which if the knight needs to go back, so it goes back this way so that it has more options to choose in the future. We got pawn to f4, reinforcing the pawn on e5 because it is pressured mode, and also not only that, maybe to prevent the pawn going to f6 and taking the pawn here. And then we got pawn to c5, attacking the pawn on d4, trying to take this pawn and weaken this pawn a bit, because if this pawn takes the d4 pawn, this pawn is not defense another pawn anymore. We got knight to f3, developing another knight and controlling more squares, and also defending the pawns on d4 and e5. We got bishop to e3, which develops a bishop and also defends the pawn structure more. This is a very strong pawn structure for white. We got pawn to a6, preventing the knight from going to b5 here, because if the knight goes to b5, well, then the pawn will just take the knight. And we got knight to e2 back, trying to restructure the pawn structure, or maybe trying to reroute the knight somewhere. We got queen to b6, which literally attacks the pawn on b2. White needs to defend, but he defends with queen to c1, which is a reasonable move because literally it needs to defend the pawn, so it defends the pawn with the queen. We got bishop to e7, developing another bishop and controlling more squares on this side of the board with the black side. And we got pawn to c3. Finally, almost completing the pawn structure over here, which is the pyramid. And the final thing that the white needs to do here to complete the structure of the pyramid is to go g3. But we got castles, which is an inaccuracy, and I don't know why. Maybe the computer says it so. The pawn can just take here, but we got this inaccuracy of completing the pyramid, and I still don't know why. It's an inaccuracy. We got pawn to f6, completely challenging the pawn on e5. We got bishop to g2, just developing, and does nothing about these two pawns. And we got pawn takes d4, taking away a bit of a structure of pawn. And now we got this very damaged pyramid instead of the very formal pyramid, which is really good for Magnus. Why he did that, he weakens the pyramid. And now we got this queen check, and from this trade we got this file opened up, and now these things are weak. The file on the C file is very weak, and the diagonal on the A5 to E1 square is very weak. And that which Magnus uses that to check him, and then we got knight to C3. Take note here, if queen to c3 was played, then bishop right away blunders a queen, because the queen cannot move anywhere, and if any random move happens, yeah, the queen will be just taken. And if the queen is going to move, then the king will be taken. So if the king will be taken, it's game over. So he will not do it. And we got knight to c3 instead, which develops a knight, but also pins the knight. Because now, if the knight moves, the queen will just take the king somehow. We got knight to b6, trying to go knight to a4, trying to take the knight on c3. We got pawn to f6, which forces the bishop to go and take the pawn, and not the other pawn to take the pawn, because this king is going to be very weak. So we got bishop takes f6, which literally is a very not powerful bishop, because if it goes anywhere between these squares, which it can travel, it can literally be taken by all of the pawns, which is very strong pyramid over here with the French defense. We got d3, trying to prevent some sort of, I don't know, attack from black over here, trying to prevent knight to a4, and then we got d7. Finally, developing another bishop, and not only defending another bishop, it is defending the knight. And yeah, this bishop is just okay over here. Not compared to this bishop. This bishop is really bad. It has no purpose, like, really. We got bishop to d7, castles for white, connecting the rooks to the queens right here, and we are okay here for white. And we got rook to c8, trying to cover up the file here, and the queen moves to d2, so that to avoid the danger of the rook when this file opens with knight to b4. We got bishop to e7, covering up these diagonals, rerouting the bishop to a much better square, which it can go a3, or maybe pinning the knight on b4 right here. We got knight to e2, forcing a trade between two queens, the white queen and the black queen. And we got this trade, which now this bishop looks very powerful too. And we got rook to c7, looking for it to double up here, and then to start an attack on the white side. But then, white just defends it with c1. And we got rook to c8, and now if the knight moves away, this rook is going just to trade this rook, and we're actually fine. It is now not a double, rook. Because if a random move were to happen, and black trying, wait, no, I mean, that's a stupid move, sorry. If this were to happen, then black takes, and then this will be a trade, and this rook is somehow not that powerful anymore. And whereas if this rook is not here, then these rooks are too powerful and will literally explode the king side of white. But that didn't happen. Fabiano Caruana is smart enough to go rook to c1 here, and if the knight moves, the rooks will be traded, and black is not that powerful anymore. We got pawn to f5, another pawn break, and which a tactical occurs, because if pawn takes pawn, then we got this bishop f4, and now it attacks the rook. The rook is trapped, it has nowhere to go, so you have to move any one of your pieces, but you cannot move the rook, which is being attacked now by the bishop, because it is trapped. And if any random move somehow were to occur, and then the bishop takes the rook, and then the rook takes the bishop, that doesn't matter, because rooks are more powerful than bishop. So literally, this is what is the conclusion of it. And black goes there and tries to counter-attack it, because bishop to f4 is coming, and we got rook to e1, and the verge of going bishop to f4 is a possibility. And now the rook is trapped, and maybe somehow Magnus Carlsen tries to, solve this. And we got bishop and if the bishop were to move now here, this is a good move, because literally if the bishop were to go to b4, the bishop is pinned to the rook, and wherever the bishop moves, the rook will just be taken. So we got this and then this trade. And now, as we can see, black's pieces are kind of active, right? But white's pieces are faster to be active more. And these pieces of Magnus Carlsen is too slow. And we'll show you why it's too slow by pawn takes e6, bishop takes e6, and now we got this discovered attack to the bishop and doubled attack to bishop even. We got bishop to f5 trying to escape, and then we got knight to e5 trying to make the knight very powerful here. And if the black knight takes the pawn, then we have no, that's not the right thing. That's not the right thing. And we have knight takes d5. If knight takes d5, then we have bishop to d5, which is literally a fork. And the king has to move, and this will be taken because it is checked, and the king has to do something about it. You cannot block with the bishop because that is just a blunder. And yeah, I think that's the only tactic for it. We got pawn to g4, completely attacking the bishop. The bishop has to move back or move there, which is a great move, and he has to trade because all of these white pieces are going to bulldozer him into an explosion where literally black loses. Like what? And what Fabiano Caruana did here, literally attacks the knight on b4, knight to d5 happens here, and we got rook to e4, defending the pawn on d4, and also taking a free pawn on the e4 square. We got rook to c3, which is a mistake, because Fabiano Caruana sacrifices the knight. We got knight to d7. If knight takes knight, we got knight takes d5, and there are too many threats because literally it attacks the knight and has the fork here on e7. And if the rook were to move, we got this fork. It's a double fork, and the knight will take the rook. The knight will take the rook, and that is bad for Magnus Carlsen because Fabiano Caruana wins a free rook. And if knight takes knight here, we got knight to f6, king to g7, and then this will be just okay for white because white is so powerful and has an extra pawn, and then rook to c1 is going to be kind of played, but that is not enough. White is so powerful here that literally white is so powerful here. So we got rook to c3, knight to d7, and of course rook to b3, and then knight to d5, which is a great move because if knight takes knight, and then we got rook to e5, which is a simple move to attack the knight, which as simply is kind of a tactic. But we got c3 and then knight to f6 checks the king, and we got a resignation by Magnus Carlsen because this pawn is simply too powerful on the d4 square. How will you prevent the pawn from going anywhere to here, to this? Fabiano Caruana knows how to do that, and Magnus Carlsen saw it, so he resigned. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is the last and first game. This is the most, I don't know, this is maybe the one of my favorite games. Literally, he sacrificed the knight on this move right, maybe, where is it? Where is it? Sorry, I literally skipped. And here is a knight sacrifice, because if you take everything, we got this very doubled fork, which is really great. And then literally, Fabiano Caruana kept solid here, and Magnus Carlsen is stepping on a floor full of traps and literally kept it solid. But once the knight sacrifice has gone here, we got to this trade and Fabiano Caruana is winning. And don't forget that Fabiano Caruana has a lot of piece activity when everything opens than the black pieces. The black pieces are kind of doing nothing here, and because of the knight cannot take the pawn, which I already explained, this knight kind of sucks because literally it cannot go anywhere except maybe to another miserable square. Magnus Carlsen has lost to Fabiano Caruana. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was an amazing game. And yeah, see you guys in the next video. This is the last and first game I'm gonna be mentioning today. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to make me more videos like this. And peace out.